And the same was true here. We removed PCB-laden dirt from this area. We removed PCB dirt here. And as we did that, and before we could close the hole back up, we had to take lots of samples to make sure we got it all. And so lots of dirt samples. These are the wells. Again, you can try and see them there, but here's the Kipp. 27 wells indicated here around the plant. We're here in the Goodman Center. Right here, there's a well. So last year we put 6 more in, the last of the 27. Importantly, 2 to the north of our plant, one right in the Goodman Center parking lot right out here, and 1 to the north. No, this one was already here. This is the last one up here on Milwaukee. And so we've got that one. And then importantly, we put in 25, which is halfway between our plant and City Well 8. And so that's, as we call the sentinel well, to make sure we know that the contamination has not, will not get to City Well 8. We'll come back to that. In addition, we've got soil vapor probes. So there are 17 in total, the green dots here, all the way around our plant, between us and the Goodman, along our property line here, that we utilize to make sure that the soil vapor, this is now PCE again, that doesn't get into our neighbors' houses. And we'll talk about that in detail. And then lastly, just to give you a sense, as we did the PAH study and looked beyond our site, you see the samples we took around the city to understand, is the PAH that's in our neighbor's yard and in our backyard the same as what's all over Madison? We'll talk about that. So let's start getting into it, if you would. That's just kind of the backdrop of the investigation. We've taken a methodical approach. We've engaged the right people, and we think we fully understand the site. Soil vapor. The way I'll go through it as quickly as I can. Soil vapor first, then soil, then water. We'll do on-site, what have we done, what's left, and then off-site, what have we done, what's left. So we installed this soil vapor extraction system. And I showed you that network of wells, right? And so what this is, think of it as a big central vacuum system. But along this road here, we've got 9 extraction wells. Perforated pipe goes down. We've got a central unit that draws a vacuum on it, pulls back the vapor, right? That's been running for a couple of years now. Effectively making certain that the soil vapor that's in the ground doesn't go to the neighbors, but rather comes back. Comes through a filtration system to make sure that we destroy it before we admit it to air. So that's been operating for quite some time. We also did, and it's really a groundwater treatment, this next thing, right? Fancy name, in situ chemical oxidation, ISCO for short. What it is the injection of agents into the water that will destroy the PCE. And we did that 2 events, one last year and one that we just completed. We inject a product called, it's a sodium permanganate, and I'll let the experts, as you would have questions later, talk about that. Again, I know some of you fear that as PCE, you're knowledgeable enough to know that as it degrades, it goes from PCE to TCE to DCE to vinyl fluoride, right? All nasties along the chain if you allow it as it biodegrades. But the good news about this ISCO treatment with this is it goes away. It destroys PCE, right? And its byproducts are not harmful. And so why I'm talking about this in the soil vapor is we demonstrated that this treatment method was not very effective given the nature of our bedrock. So it's in the deep groundwater. So it doesn't tend to do a very good job in the deep groundwater, but it's very effective in the shallow, unconsolidated. And so as we applied these chemicals last year and again just recently, we know they're destroying PCE in that shallow groundwater. And that's the shallow groundwater that if there was an opportunity for soil vapor to migrate, it would come from the shallow. And so this is belt and suspenders. ENR did not require us to do this, but we said, as we settled our lawsuit, that we would do this for peace of mind. And we want to destroy as much PCE as we can. So we did that. The SVE system, soil vapor extraction, providing proper capture, and we monitor these vapor probes on a regular basis to know where they are and make sure that there are no surprises. So that's on-site what we're doing. A lot of that on-site work is to protect the off-site. as you know, lots of discussion a couple of years ago. DNR, said in December of 12, after testing 47 homes and finding 47 homes that did not exceed the standard, that the investigation was complete. We do not believe there is a risk. But again, in settlement with our neighbors to ensure you have peace of mind as you live in your homes, we agreed that we would install sub-slab depressurization systems for anyone who asked for one. And so the DNR had installed some of those, and we have already installed 39. We have 10 to go, and that will complete every one of our immediate neighbors, and the next ring will have one of those installed. And the last one, I think everybody has been notified, with the exception of one. We had one, I don't know if the gentleman's here, you don't have to identify yourself, but I got a note from somebody today who said you haven't contacted me. It was only because their name was on the list of systems already installed. And so we'll quickly recover from that. And we think we can get the balance of those within the next few weeks anyway. We've got a contractor, same one that the DNR was used. He's doing a nice job. I don't know if anybody's met him, but he'll get those done. And then, so still to do, right? We'll get the rest of them in. We've agreed that we'll warrant and inspect them annually, make sure they're working for 5 years. We'll keep operating that SBE system until we're told we don't need to. And I don't know when that is, but it's likely a long time. And we routinely monitor that for its effectiveness. And we'll continue to monitor the vapor probes to make sure we know what's going on with the soil vapor around here. Okay? So that's soil vapor. I'm going to move to soil, back to our property, what's been completed. Keep in mind, there was remediation years ago, right? And it's not as if the remediation just started a couple of years ago. Certainly a fair amount more activity in the last couple, but back in 88, 89, and 2005, there were oxidation treatments that were intended to and did destroy PCE. We know that that's true. And so that went on. This past summer, we removed almost 700 tons of PCE impacted dirt in our parking lot. I showed you those two areas of high concentration. Those were the ones that exceeded 50, I think, as the standard. And with the EPA and DNR oversight, we removed that dirt, properly disposed of it, properly handled it by people who are licensed to do so. Under our plant, this was the chart. Again, afterwards, this is not the chart. Where's the PCB in our plant? Right here. So you can take a look at this afterwards, and all of these charts, right? We're not going to give them out tonight, but they will all be in an annual report, requirement for us to fill out an annual report to the DNR. That'll be submitted to them within a week or two. These charts will be in there. You'll be able to see them. For those who can see, it's a footprint of our plant. We poked a lot of holes. I don't know if somebody has the numbers, but looked all over, given historic use, and anything you see in blue is over 50. And so we know where it is. The EPA asked us to delineate it. It is protected. PCB is only a problem if you come in contact with it. Because we have a plant floor of at least 6 inches of concrete, the contact exposure is impossible unless we disrupt that, and I'll get to that in a moment. We looked everywhere. There was an underground storage tank in the old gas station, our parking lot on the southeast corner. And so we properly dug it out, removed it, got approval to close that out as well as we went along. So that's a bunch of the work that we've done. Still to do, we've got to finalize the reporting relative to the PC under the plant. We owe them an analysis. The testing was just completed really in the last few weeks. We now have to ensure, right, that our parking lots, our plant floor are maintained as an effective cap to prevent exposure. We got to dispose, should we break that cap, right? We need to dispose of that material properly and with licensed folks who will take it to the proper place and dispose of it in the proper fashion. And then we obviously have groundwater wells to confirm no risk to groundwater from PCBs. I can't get too technical for you, right, because I don't know. But unlike PCE that travels a bit, PCB does not, right? For those of you who know, it tends to cling to the soil. It does not tend to travel. We know where it is underneath our plant. It's down to about 18 feet, right? It's in areas that we can't get to. The plant floor provides proper and effective cap from anybody being exposed to it, and it won't travel into the groundwater. And that network of wells, groundwater wells that we have all the way around the plant, there's never been a detect of PCB, and we will monitor that to make certain there never is. And so the PCB, we can continue to monitor that to make sure it impacts nobody moving forward. Off-site, we did a lot of testing. You saw the dots. We tested for everything. And the exceedances, many of you on the Wabisa side, I don't know if any of you want to identify that you were part of that, but we had quite a little dig last year on the Wabisa side. We detected PCBs 2 feet in. Everybody's lawn was clean 10 feet in, right? But right off our property line, we had PCBs. And so, again, under the direction of the DNR and the EPA, ultimately, we removed it all. Went down to 4, sometimes 6 feet, and again, did all the confirmation sampling to ensure that it was clean, and did backfill. And it makes sense, right, that it was here. This whole strip of factory wasn't built until the 80s, right? Late 70s, 80s. This used to be a gravel dirt road that went around the plant. And again, given what was the practice of the day, it is likely that waste oil would have been spread here to protect the dust. And any rain, there's some records that go back to the 40s that talk about each time we have a rain, that dark road gets washed out. And so that's why the PCBs were on this side, but not very far, right? They were 2 feet in. So we removed all of those, and they were not in any exceedance on the other properties. So we did that, and then PAHs, right? Can of worms, difficult to understand, but well, I'm going to try. PAHs are polycyclic or aromatic hydrocarbons, right? So you can Google this and take a look, right? What the wiki would start out by saying is they're abundant in the universe. They're found in oil, coal, asphalt, they're in grilled foods, right? Smoke, and they're byproducts of combustion. So they are everywhere in our world. We did a couple of studies. As we took those initial tests and sampled those for the PAHs, there were PAHs in nearly everybody's, maybe everybody's lawn that exceeded the standard. And we tested ours as well. And as we analyzed those, we actually did some forensic fingerprinting, right? What do your PAHs look like? What do ours look like? And they were different. And the experts know that this is proven science, right? That the ones that were in our parking lot were similar. They apparently had lower molecular weight, all right, but they were consistent with, petroleum products. The ones in our neighbors, in your yards, had this higher molecular weight. They were associated with more of the common, as people talk about it, or kind of urban dust. Cinder material, urban dust, asphalt, certainly burning of wood, burning of coal, fireplaces, right, barbecuing, and so typical of the urban setting. We didn't quite convince everybody of that in the first analysis, and so that's why there was this broader PAH study. And we said, okay, we'll go out, we'll take a look. And so we took those, how many samples? 23 samples. You saw the dots. You can look at them again from around the area. And the results were consistent, right? So the level of PAHs in the backyards of the neighbors adjacent to us are the same as the PAHs way down the road everywhere in the city. Again, it's not for me to minimize them, right? They exceed what are very conservative guidelines, but as I look at the expert reports, and I don't know, I'm going to get this off by a factor, but ours are kind of in the 3 range, and you go to Boston and they're 30, and you go to Chicago and they're up there, right? So typical urban settings with high PAHs. That second study, which we compared, demonstrated to everyone's satisfaction, right, that the PAHs in the neighbors are consistent with what's in Madison and consistent with urban dust. So this is just taking from the information that the DNR has recently published, so that I don't get tripped up a bit. It just says they're representative of urban background, consistent with these kinds of things, and as such, we are not required to take any additional investigative or remedial actions.